All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the routine Thursday weekly briefing. My name is Nick Lucchetti. I'm a meteorologist here at the Raleigh office, and this briefing will cover the period today, March 30th, through next Wednesday, April 5th. All right, so we'll just start off with the upcoming weather pattern for this week. So today and honestly most of tomorrow, it's going to be pretty nice seasonable weather, especially today. You can see in this upper left panel, we have an area of high pressure that's currently over Maryland that's going to shift offshore as is depicted here through tonight. So with that high pressure nearby, we're going to have pretty seasonable weather, temps in the mid to upper 60s as highs today, with light breeze. But overall should be dry, mostly sunny, and should be a pretty nice day. Tonight, we're going to get the flow is going to turn a little more southerly, so we'll have some warmer temps compared to this morning where we saw some low 30s and mid 30s across the western Piedmont. But tomorrow morning, we should be mostly in the mid 40s, so not expecting a really cold morning or any frost potential or anything like that tomorrow morning. With that southerly flow for Friday, we'll see a little bit of a warm up and some breezy conditions and breezy winds in the afternoon. Ahead of a cold front that you can see in this upper right panel that is going to approach Friday night into the Saturday time frame. And with ahead of that cold front, as we get into the Friday night to Saturday morning time frame, we will see some prefrontal showers and a few storms traverse the mountains and then push across our area. There's a little uncertainty on how intense that'll be once it gets, hits the mountains. The mountains might tend to eat it up. Some of the guidance is showing that. Overall, though, we're not expecting a lot of rainfall with that, and I'll show you the QPF associated with that system here in the next couple slides, and a couple slides from now. But overall, we're looking at that kind of Friday night into Saturday morning time frame. It might be similar to last weekend. If you recall, we had some upstream convection hit the mounds, kind of get eaten up, and by the time it pushed through here, it was just kind of some residual showers that didn't produce a lot of rainfall. So that's kind of our current thinking, but the timing should be Friday night into Saturday morning. And I'll discuss that a little bit in more detail further along in the presentation. But the main concern for the next 7 days is actually there's a really high probability of very strong and gusty winds developing Saturday ahead of this cold front. And I'll talk in a lot more detail in the next several slides about that, but we want to highlight that as the main concern for the next 7 days. But as that cold front, it'll eventually pass through, and we'll actually see a drying trend Saturday afternoon to the evening from the west to east. So again, this is a pretty quick hitter, mostly Friday through Friday morning, but should dry out by the afternoon evening time frame, and then Sunday through mostly early to midweek, middle of next week should be mostly dry. There's some uncertainty as we get into the midweek period with a chance for maybe some showers in that time frame, but we got some time to figure that out. But overall, it should be relatively dry from Sunday through about Tuesday or so. So back to this main concern, these high probability, very strong wind gusts on Saturday. I'm going to show you a couple slides here that is going to show an approach that we like to use here. We essentially look at ensemble data, so we don't just look at one deterministic model, one model run. We look at a bunch of models blended together, and through that process, we can actually derive some probabilities of certain thresholds being met, which I'll explain a little bit more here in a second. But it's a good way for us to look at a bunch of models at once and try to help us assess confidence and or uncertainty associated with trying to forecast something like wind gusts for this Saturday. So this is the first plot I was going to show you. So in these plots, again, these are essentially probabilities derived using, as I put in the bottom here, an ensemble of about several dozens of numerical weather models. So from that, looking at across all those models, we can look at this is specifically for the probability of exceeding a certain threshold. Here in this plot, I'm showing the probability of the 24-hour max wind gust. This is for Saturday exceeding 30 miles per hour. So it's basically just a percentage probability looking at all these different models of exceeding that threshold of 30 miles per hour. So it's a little hard to see the color scale here, but when you start getting up into these yellow colors, 90 to 100%, that's equates to about 90 to 100% chance of exceeding 30 miles per hour. If you're down in these purple colors, it's more like 5 to 30%, so low probabilities. So you can see here across the entire Southeast, looking at all these models, across all these models, the probability of the 24-hour max wind gusts exceeding 30 miles per hour is pretty high. It's 90 to 100% across most of the area. There's a little bit of reduced probabilities across the Southwest here, but still even those are anywhere from 60 to 90%. So very high probability, which gives us better confidence that we're going to see at least a max wind gust of 30 miles per hour across the entire area for Saturday. Then we can look at a little bit higher threshold. So this is for the probability of exceeding 35 miles per hour, the maximum wind gusts over the 24-hour period. You can see that we did see some reduction in some probabilities of the overall. However, we still see, into these orange and yellow shades. So, you're looking at anywhere from 60 to 100%. Again, we see some reduction across the Southwest, so maybe there's a signal that maybe the winds might not be as strong down there. But even down there, you're still seeing anywhere from 30 to 60% chance of max winds exceeding 35 miles per hour. And then we'll go up one more threshold. And so this is looking at the probability of the 24-hour max wind gusts exceeding 40 miles per hour. And you can see we definitely see some reductions in the probabilities, start getting down into these lower probabilities here. I've outlined here. Again, kind of that signal across the Southwest spatially, but overall, you can still see that there are still some pockets of some higher probabilities in these orange colors, 40 to 60% chance. So, we've been seeing this for several days. This is this morning's run of this, suite of models, but we've been seeing a pretty solid signal that is going to be really gusty and ripping on Saturday. So our official forecast currently, so this is our official forecast for Central North Carolina for the 24-hour max wind gust on Saturday, shows anywhere from the upper 30s to mid 40s out across the coastal plain and perhaps up into the Greensboro, Northwest Piedmont area. So we'll be looking at this more intensely the next, today and tomorrow, and adjusting these if necessary. But it seems like it's a pretty high probability chance that we're going to see, sustained 20-mile-per-hour winds, southerly winds, southwesterly winds, with frequent gusts of 35 to 45 miles per hour across the area on Saturday. So what does this mean overall? What is the main precautionary? What should you do? Really, things are probably going to be flying around. So if you have some outdoor equipment that's loose, we recommend securing that. If you're also out and about going to events and putting up tents or tarps or whatnot, make sure you just correctly secure those to the ground and tie them down, because they will get blown away. So that's the main takeaway here, but it's going to be pretty it's going to be ripping. As far as the timing, so again, we had those prefrontal showers that are going to move across the area in the morning time frame, and there might be some gustiness associated with those showers around daybreak as it passes through to the east through the morning hours. But really, we're going to see the wind start picking up late morning through about sunset. So that's kind of your time frame right now, what we're thinking. So late morning through sunset is when we're going to really see these winds of gusts of 35 to 45 miles per hour. So that's it. Yeah. So that's again kind of the main hazard for the next 7 days is going to be really gusty on Saturday. But we're going to pivot here and kind of go back to the precipitation forecast. So as far as amounts with this system coming through, again, today and Friday are pretty much dry across the area. As we get into Friday night into Saturday, these two upper panels here, that's when those showers and perhaps a couple storms will pass through. But again, we're not really expecting a ton of rain with that. So anywhere from 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch is what we're expecting. And that's kind of most of the rain through the 5-day total. So anywhere from 1/4 inch to an inch. Further west, it looks like there's a better signal for some higher amounts as you get up into the far southwestern mountains into the Smokies and whatnot. But for us and across the coast, it looks like shouldn't be too intensive precipitation amounts. So we talked about, I mentioned that, it's mostly gonna be showers and maybe a few thunderstorms. The Storm Prediction Center outlook for Saturday, which is this panel here where my cursor is, does outline a marginal risk for maybe some isolated severe weather potential across the far southern coastal plain. Right now it doesn't look like we're gonna have any kind of widespread severe weather or anything like that. But as that line of prefrontal showers and storms moves eastward, by the time it gets to the far southeast, we'll have to monitor. There could be some instability present, which could lead to maybe perhaps a isolated strong to severe storm developing in that area. But overall, it doesn't look like a really high impactful event, widespread severe weather or anything like that. But just wanted to highlight that. We can also look at the excessive rainfall outlook from the WPC. So this is, they essentially whether or not we'll see any kind of potential for flash flooding. And you can see that on today. Obviously, there's no threat. Friday, the biggest threat I was talking about earlier, the higher QPF is further to our west, out in the Tennessee area. So the North Carolina mountains are in a marginal to slight risk for some flash flooding. Here locally, we don't really have anything too concerning to worry about. And then on Saturday, that threat kind of shifts to our south. So we should be good. We're not really expecting any flash flooding with this prefrontal showers and storms rolling through on Saturday morning. I just wanted to give you a quick update on this. Came out this morning. This is the courtesy of the North Carolina Climate Office. They put out their drought monitoring updates every Thursday, or most Thursdays. And you can see, comparing last week's drought map to this week's drought map, there has been a little bit of an expansion of abnormally dry conditions, or D0 category, a little bit further into our southwest and up into the northern Piedmont here. But overall, it looks like even though we had some pretty solid showers and storms over the weekend across that stalled front across the southern part of our state, it looks like, unfortunately, that didn't really alleviate it. They mentioned here that the rain did help the drier soils across the far coastal southeast, but they mentioned that some of these areas still need more rain before planting can begin. So not much change, but it did expand a little bit to the west. So even though we had some rain, it didn't really alleviate much of this. One kind of interesting thing here is, I guess one of the thunderstorms, actually, you can see they have this one little white area here. Apparently it dumped 3.25 inches in Whiteville, North Carolina, in this little area here. So there was a little bit was alleviated in that tiny little area, but overall there wasn't much. There wasn't enough to really wipe out these abnormally dry conditions. However, if we look in the mid to longer range, we can look at what's coming up beyond the 7-day forecast here. We can look at some of these plots from the Climate Prediction Center. And so this is the 6 to 10-day temperature and rainfall precipitation outlook. So this is valid for the period April 4th through the 8th. And it looks like there's a pretty strong signal, 60–80% chance of above normal temps. So it looks like we're gonna have a nice warm up in the early part of April here. And then with that, we also have, some anywhere from 33 to 50% chance of above normal precipitation. However, it looks like it doesn't really extend out towards the coast. So that's more near normal or average. So perhaps the drought will struggle to be alleviated in this time period. And then we can look a little bit further out. These are the 8 to 14-day maps. So this is the April 6th to 12th time frame. And again, it's kind of a similar signal, but still a decent chance for above normal temps and above normal precipitation across the entire state. So that's kind of what's coming up in the medium to long range future. So with that, I'll just do a quick summary here, and then I can answer any questions you might have. So again, today's seasonable and pleasant weather is expected this afternoon, a little bit warmer tomorrow morning compared to this morning's lows. Should be warm and breezy on Friday with a slight chance of some showers as we get into the Friday night to overnight into Saturday morning time frame as the prefrontal showers and maybe a few storms roll across the area. Should be a drying trend from west to east by Saturday afternoon into the evening time frame, and that should continue into early to middle of next week. And again, the main hazard or takeaway from this presentation today is that there is a very high probability of very strong winds and frequent gusts on Saturday. So again, if you have loose items outside, make sure to tie those down ahead of time and to encourage that. So with that, I'd like to thank you for listening, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you have.